A leader that America needs. Let's ask 2016 presidential candidate Carly Fiorina. Carly, welcome back. First off, your reaction to the president telling the world in Germany yesterday that a year after saying we'll destroy ISIS, he has no plan, and the Pentagon pushing back saying we gave him plans. He hasn't picked one.
Well, of course. I mean, it's been clear that he hasn't had a plan. It's been equally clear that the Pentagon has been giving him options, and of course our allies have been asking for very specific things to help us defeat ISIS. Our allies in the region know ISIS is their fight. So the Kurds have been asking us now for 3 years to arm them. The Jordanians have been asking us to provide them with bombs and materiel. Remember when King Abdullah of Jordan was here in this country? When the Jordanian pilot was burned alive, he was here asking for bombs and materiel. The Egyptians have been asking us to share intelligence with them. The Bahrainis, the Kuwaitis, the Emiratis, they've all been asking for things, and we're not providing it. So instead of having a Camp David summit to talk our Arab allies into a bad deal with Iran, he should have had a Camp David summit to ask them how we can support them in this fight.
Well, it shouldn't be surprising that the president doesn't have a complete strategy on ISIS, Carly, because when he was talking, I think it was yesterday, about if the Supreme Court throws out Obamacare, he doesn't have a strategy on how America should react to that decision.
Does he want one?
No. It's true. And, you know, I think what's really disappointing about this president is not just lack of leadership, but his tendency to always place the blame for his lack of leadership somewhere else. So in the case of ISIS, it's apparently the Pentagon's fault, or it's the Iraqis' fault. If his legislation doesn't pass, it's the Republicans' fault. That's why I think the 2016 election is going to be about leadership. What is leadership? And I think it's also going to be about the direction that we want to take this nation. This is a pivotal point for our nation, and we need a leader in the Oval Office.
Let's ask about someone who'd like to step into the leadership position. That's Chris Christie. He's currently being criticized for saying that he'd actually take the lead and crack down on legalized marijuana as president. What do you think of his position, and also what do you think about the criticism that he's facing now because of it?
Including Colorado.
Well, first, I believe in states' rights, and so while I don't support legalized marijuana for a whole host of reasons, including the fact that this is a very complex chemical substance, and when we tell young people it's just like drinking a beer, we're not telling them the truth. On the other hand, Colorado voters made a choice. They may make a different choice as they see how this plays out. I do agree with Chris Christie on one thing. You know, we lost a daughter to addiction, so this is something that hits very close to home for me. And when we incarcerate people for abuse of drugs, we're not helping them. Some of the HIPAA laws that we have in this country isolate people who need help and make it very difficult for their families or their communities to help them. And so we do have to have a different approach to addictions of all kinds. But I think Colorado voters made a choice. I don't support their choice, but I do support their right to make that choice.
Right. I tell you what, Carly Fiorina, one thing since you came out, you released your book, and you've been dogged in your campaigning and going where Hillary Clinton went in some cases. It's beginning to work if you look at the polls. We have a Fox News Power GOP Power Index, and first I want to take a look at this poll. It has Governor Bush and Governor Walker in front with 12%, followed by Carson, if you're listening on radio, poll at 9%, then Cruz and Rubio at 7%. You're at 2% in this poll, but in the power poll and who's on the march, you are actually fourth behind Bush, Walker, and Rubio. It's beginning to resonate for you. How have you noticed it when you get on stage and when you go in front of crowds? Have you noticed a change?
Well, I certainly am encouraged by the momentum I see. And, you know, honestly, Brian, what I feel out there is what a Fox News poll said several weeks ago as well. 82% of the American people now think we have a professional political class that is more concerned with the protection of its power, its privilege, and its position than in doing the work of the people. And that's what I feel out there. So people are very interested in someone who has leadership experience from outside of Washington, D.C. And so when I talk about we need a commander-in-chief and a president who understands how the economy works, who understands how the world works and who's in it, who understands bureaucracies and technology, and most of all understands executive decision-making, yes, that resonates with people.
Fresh off a very successful West Coast swing, and you came out and said, hey, listen, I'm worth $38 million. Hillary, tell me how much you're worth. and you started as the secretary, so it's been pretty impressive. Always great to have you on. Thanks so much.
Great to see you, Carly.
Thanks so much for having me.